Hey, welcome back to another video. There was a period of time in the Archie Sonic comics where the series was very focused on the love lives of its characters for some reason. Most notably, this manifested in the constant on-again, off-again, will-they or won't-they relationship between Sonic and Princess Sally Acorn, but there were many other couples, like Antoine and Bunny, that got really entirely too much focus compared to what the book was supposed to be about. And I say that as a fan of some of these relationships. It was this bizarre focus on romance that led to the creation of Mina Mongoose, her entire existence basically owed to creating love triangle-esque drama in Sonic and Sally's relationship. They did ultimately do other stuff with her, but at first she was very much there to act as another potential love interest more than anything else. Mina was a pretty regular feature of the book following her introduction, but Sonic never reciprocated her feelings, and when Sonic and Sally were officially locked in, it meant that Mina needed a new beau, because the story of her slowly becoming a popular musician just wasn't enough, I guess. Thus, we come to our topic for today's Archie Sonic character focus, Ash Mongoose. This actually was a suggestion from a comment on my video about Scourge, and while I wasn't going to do it initially, the more I thought about it, the more I figured, screw it, might be fun. So, to the person that was asking about this, here you go, and I'm sorry in advance. Let's take a look at the history of Ash Mongoose. Ash's first appearance was in issue 134, funnily enough the infamous issue that broke up Sonic and Sally, though his role here is incredibly minor. He appears during a shot of Mina's concert, and later Mina introduces him to Sonic as her manager, with Ash's only line of dialogue being to standoffishly add that he's also her boyfriend. It's really small, but this actually does do a lot to set up the nature of the relationship between Ash and Sonic, and as you can tell, it's not exactly friendly. Ash's next appearance was in issue 144, but once again wasn't especially major, only having a couple lines of dialogue at the end of Mina's segment in a story focusing on the love woes of some of the female characters. Yes, they really thought that this was a worthwhile story to include. At least we got this panel of Amy out of it. While Ash's role here is another minor one, it does start to spotlight a bit of his actual relationship with Mina wondering if she might have a chance with Sonic now that he and Sally had broken up, but being convinced by Allie, the writer of a romance advice column, to not throw away her actual relationship for what might just be a crush. The following issue featured Ash slightly more prominently, by which I mean he had more than a line of dialogue, with him antagonizing Sonic during a game of darts that Sonic does absolutely blow, but Ash is no better, later storming out of the place and talking about how obnoxious Sonic is, I guess missing the part where he was the one being a pain in the ass. In just these three appearances, we've pretty much fully established who Ash is as a character. He's Mina's boyfriend, and he doesn't like Sonic. This really doesn't change much going forward, as Ash's subsequent appearances amount to little more than brief cameos. Like in issue 150, which opens with Ash complaining about Sonic, though in this case it's actually Sonic's evil counterpart Scourge posing as him, or in issue 152, where he's barely distinguishable in this crowd shot. Seriously, I've read through Archie Sonic a good few times, and I've literally never noticed Ash was in this issue until making this video. Ash did eventually get something of a spotlight in the two-part story Mongoose, which took place across issues 153 and 154. In this story, Eggman hires Fang the Hunter, or Knack the Weasel if you want to go with the official English name he actually had at the time, to assassinate Mina, a task he fails at thanks to a random concert-goer bumping into him. You would think a fairly experienced mercenary like Fang would have thought to maybe do this from, I don't know, a distance or something to prevent exactly that situation from happening, but what do I know? Following the attack, Sally assigns the Freedom Fighters to handle security at Mina's concert, with Sonic in particular acting as Mina's personal bodyguard. As you could probably imagine, Ash isn't a fan of this plan, and later accuses Mina of still having feelings for Sonic, leading to them breaking up for like 5 minutes. A second attempt is made to kill Mina, this time with Eggman sending in duplicates of the robot's heavy and bomb to do the deed. Sonic and friends are able to hold off the attack, but when Ash goes to talk to Mina again, they discover a straggler bomb hiding in Mina's dressing room, which Ash grabs and runs off with, getting himself blowed up but good. He does survive, but he's in pretty rough shape afterwards, as one would expect. Mina admits that she doesn't love Sonic anymore, and it seems like finally she can be happy with Ash. This story is a bit of a mixed bag for Ash as a character, honestly. On the one hand, it used him better than just being the guy who's dating Mina, and gave him a solidly heroic moment with him putting his life on the line to save her. But, on the other hand, his opposition to the Freedom Fighters and Sonic handling security makes him out to be even more of a jerk than his previous appearances. Like, the guy's girlfriend nearly got killed, and he's letting this, frankly, very petty dislike of Sonic potentially keep her from being safe. He doesn't even suggest somebody other than Sonic being Mina's bodyguard, he just wants to shut down the whole idea. Though, in Ash's defense here, he does at least suggest canceling the concert outright instead of just adding more protection, which isn't a bad idea, but it doesn't really solve the problem, since Eggman could just attack at the next one, or not even wait for another concert and just try to get Mina killed in her own house or something. Ash wouldn't get another appearance after this until issue 159, another very small one where he just barely avoids getting annihilated by a rogue Metal Sonic Trooper. This would actually be his last appearance before the book entered what I like to call Phase 2, as Ian Flynn would take over writing the series with issue 160. Going into Phase 2, not much really changes about Ash's appearances overall. His first showing here is in issue 174 as part of the crowd at Bunny and Antoine's wedding. At least I'm pretty sure that's him. It's honestly a little tough to tell. The crowd here wasn't really given as much detail as, the focal characters. And he also briefly shows up alongside Mina to celebrate Eggman's supposedly final defeat in issue 200. Yeah, he continues to largely be a guy, but it did seem like there was some interest in making Ash more likable and existent. He gets a sort of supporting role in the Mongol Rising two-parter across issues 185 and 186, with 185 even beginning with him apologizing for being such a jerk to a lot of people, but Sonic in particular. And Sonic even is willing to accept his apology because, well, he can be kind of a jerk too. They don't exactly become best buds, but they've at least smoothed things out a little bit and can maybe tolerate each other now. Later, as revenge for Sonic not accepting a deal to release him from prison, immortal psychic bad guy Mammoth Mogul takes control of Tails, Mighty, and Mina to force Sonic's hand, with Ash getting involved since, his girlfriend's a part of this. Realizing he can't best Sonic in a fight, Mogul sends the mind-controlled trio into some perilous predicaments, having Tails fly as high up as possible until he passes out, Mina running towards the middle of the ocean, where she will then stop, and Mighty walking into Eggman's territory completely defenseless. Absolute certain death for all three of them unless Sonic brings Mogul a Chaos Emerald. Classic superhero dilemma. Sonic isn't fast enough to save all three of them, especially since he doesn't know specifically where any of them actually are. So, with Mogul's word that they'll be unharmed if Sonic does as asked, Sonic and Ash rush to Castle Acorn and yoink the emerald stashed there. True to his word, Mogul has Tails, Mighty, and Mina return unharmed, removes his control of them, and promptly fucks off to run a casino. No, I am not joking. Ash had another supporting role from issues 219 to 223, but that was really more about Mina and some growing unrest after the fallout of the Iron Dominion invasion. Too much to go over here. Long story short, a whole evil kingdom came in and ruled things for a while, and Ash is really only notable within the first issue of that arc. After that, Ash made single-panel appearances in issues 232 and 233, and his last appearance before he was erased by the reboot induced by Worlds Collide was in issue 241, where he got a single line of dialogue. Ash ends as he began, barely speaking, and definitely being Mina's boyfriend. And that really is the long and the short of Ash Mongoose. He was pretty clearly introduced just to create some friction in relation to Mina and Sonic, but even then it didn't feel like there was really much interest in utilizing him as a character. Like, there are some real nobodies who got way more focus and attention than Ash did. Looking right at you, Tommy Turtle. And once he and Mina were solidified as a couple, all they could really do is have him be a dick to Sonic sometimes. Once he and Flynn took over, it almost seemed like there was an idea to make Ash a bit less abrasive so he could maybe be a more regular supporting character, but I don't think anyone really had any desire to make use of him. It definitely didn't help that once the book finally moved past its focus on teen melodrama and romance and remembered it was, an action-adventure series, he didn't really have a place anymore. He's not a fighter, so he can't really go along on fighting Eggman adventures, so all he can really do is be a part of Mina's storylines, but then Mina eventually fell out of relevance too, so there was never really a chance for Ash to become a hit character in my opinion. Besides, even when Ash was around, he's just not that engaging of a character. His whole deal was just sort of being a dick to Sonic, and early on that led to his relationship with Mina being portrayed in a very bad light. Most notable is during that brief breakup they have in the Mongoose story, which is brought about essentially because of Ash being paranoid that Mina still has feelings for Sonic, despite everything that we've been shown indicating that Mina's largely happy with Ash and has moved on. There is that brief doubt Mina has after Sonic and Sally break up, but that doesn't last beyond that one story, and it didn't feel like it would have affected much anyway, so Ash just ends up coming off like a paranoid, distrustful jerk. In the long run though, Ash admittedly isn't that bad. I went into this video really planning on trashing this guy because I remembered hating him, but honestly, he's not even the worst romantic rival guy they ever introduced. 9 times out of 10, Monkey Khan is way worse, and he's in more of the series, and don't even fucking get me started on Jeffrey St. John. That said, this is only really because, by and large, Ash is too dull to hate or have any strong feelings on, in my opinion. Yeah, he's a jerk in some of his appearances, but most of the time he's just kind of the guy who is there. It feels a lot like he was introduced without any real plan for what to do with him beyond being Mina's boyfriend, and there just wasn't a place for him beyond that, or any interest in finding a place for him. As evidenced by the way I've spoken about many of his appearances, he tends to show up for maybe a couple of lines, but usually he's silently in the background, to the point where you could easily remove him from many of the issues he shows up in, and nothing would change. Even his bigger moments really aren't that major, and they're usually attached to somebody else, generally Mina. He doesn't get a character arc beyond acknowledging that he's kind of a jerk that one time. He's not the big hero, he's not the best, and he's not the worst. Of all the characters in the Archie Sonic comics, Ash Mongoose certainly is one of them. That's going to be it from me. I hope you have a good day, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is for you, and I will see you guys next time.